Welcome to Restore My Song, a space to be encouraged by two friends who love Jesus and see His purpose in all things, even pain. Every episode you'll hear real stories from real people who asked, "How am I going to make it through this?" and found God's redemption. Here's your hosts, Joya Hyde and Rayma Toll.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Restore My Song. Today is our 10th episode.
No way.
Totally
Are you
yes.
serious?
I'm serious. Totally yes way.
Wow.
Episode 10. It is flying by.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. I actually heard a stat that most people give up after 10 episodes.
Okay, so what are we doing? Are we going to give up?
No.
Oh,
no.
okay.
We've got all sorts of momentum going. Let's do this.
I just wanted to make sure.
So, I'm Rayma.
And I'm Joya.
And then our special guest today is one of my best friends from forever ago, from my college days, Rachel Wegner.
Hi,
y'all. We're so glad you're here today. So our yards are coming to life right now. For example, my yard has this gorgeous yellow rose bush that is on the verge of popping. Like, it's going to be beautiful tomorrow. This morning, there were all these birds out in the yard, and my youngest, my kindergartner, we're having a conversation about it, and he's like, "What are they doing out there?" And I said, "Well, they're eating bugs." And he goes, "What? There's no bugs in our grass." I was like, "Oh, there's bugs all over our grass, like worms and all these things." He's like, No. They are eating the grass. It is their second favorite food. And I was just like,
it's logical.
All right, fake news. Where are you getting this from? But he's totally in the stage of stating very emphatically many facts that he makes up.
Yeah.
like him.
So I've been chuckling all day about it.
It's so funny.
So
funny.
Yeah. Earlier this week, I was talking to Rayma, and I said, "Yeah, my neighbor and I went out for a little like decompression, mental health walk, and we have this pond right behind my place, and there's been like a whole flock of geese, and they just had babies, like little goslings that have been running around. So we were like, oh, let's walk down the hill and see if we can spot the goslings. We think we know where their nest is without getting too close because geese are mean." And I stopped in my tracks at the top of the hill and I went, "Is that the bobcat? We've had a bobcat running around too." Which, mind you, we're in the middle of Nashville in a lake. So, and I went, "What does the bobcat have in its mouth?" "A gosling." And then I looked at the pond and I'm like, "Is that a dead goose in the water?" And we were like, so our mental health walk did not turn out well. And like my poor neighbor burst into tears. And I'm like laughing hysterically because I'm like, of course this day would just end like this, with like this bobcat running away with the goose and another one in the water. And we were like, we should probably alert the property management to the happenings. And so they're trying to figure out what they can do. I think geese, like, come and go, but the bobcat, I'm not sure they're really allowed to do anything unless it hurts like a person or a but we've been joking about making a little like memorial of stones for the dead geese.
Poor little babies.
I was like, oh. I guess I handled it a little better because I just like we immediately went to dark humor and was like, should I start singing The Circle of Life? Like, is that going to make my cry even more? So she's okay now. It was just a moment where we're like, that went wrong. That went
wrong.
See, so you sad. Just need to be glad that you have natural predators there, because when I lived in Fort Collins, it was my last year of grad school, and we all lived in student housing, and I was really pregnant with my third kid. Our apartment complex was overrun with geese, and they had signs up everywhere that were like, don't touch them, don't do anything to them, don't destroy their habitat. And so they were making themselves at home. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of them. So one mama goose early in the spring built her nest right in front of our door. to our apartment. And they are mean, and I don't blame her. I mean, she's sitting on all her little eggs and stuff. And so I had to start taking a snow shovel. And anytime we had to leave out the door, I had to take it and like shake it at her. You know, I never hit her, but I was always like, back, 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 back. And my kids loved it.
Oh,
Because they saw me just being like this, you know, scaring her off, aggressive mother bear. And, but eventually she got a little used to us. She would just hiss, you know? And then, but the babies, they seriously were so cute. They're just like these neon green little fluffy things. And there were hundreds of them. So, you know, sometimes it doesn't go well when the city ordinance is like, don't cull the bird population. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, our resident bobcat's helping out here, so
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
wild.
How about you, Joya? Do you have any backyard critter stories?
Interestingly enough, we were nervous this week that there was a person living in the alleyway behind our house. Turns out it's a raccoon.
Oh.
We just saw the tracks last night. So in one hand, we're like, yeah, that's good news. In another hand, we're like, kids, be careful. There's a raccoon that lives in the backyard. So, yeah, you never know what you're going to find back there.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's like, what do you do with all your kids? And
yeah. Yep. And we're right in the heart of the city.
Thank you for indulging me in your...
Yeah.
Wow, it just started raining so hard.
Did it?
Speaking of the backyard.
Dang.
Okay. Sometimes when the wind picks up, it screws with my connection. So if we get jammed up, we can start again at some point.
Yeah. You bet. You bet. No worries.
Good
Power
stuff.
washer.
Well, thank you for indulging me in all your backyard critter stories. Yeah, so let's go and get started. Rachel and I have a long past of being very close, and we've walked each other through many, 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 many things. And when my husband Matt passed away, she was like on an airplane 5 days later, you know, came to my house here and has just been an awesome support. And before that too, right? So we've always visited each other and we always lived in different parts of the country since college, which is sad, but we make an effort to stay connected. So yeah, I just know, Rachel, you have such a rich story, like lots of tapestries of faith and doubt, and in all the best ways, authenticity. And I feel like you always wrestle with the Lord honestly and with an open heart. I've never felt anything fake from you ever in my whole life. And so I would really love have you share part of your story today. And when we talked it over, you know, you picked what segment you were going to talk about. Yeah. So I guess I'll just kick off with that first question then. What's a time in your life, Rachel, where you thought something was completely lost and then God brought restoration to you?
Yeah, so when I was thinking over this question, I realized that maybe I'm still in the process of getting some of that back too, right? But my mind immediately goes to the year of 2023, the whole year. Adding it up, there were 10 deaths that affected me that year, including Matthew, Rama's late husband. And it was just a time where I felt like I lost my joy in a lot of ways, and also just that peace between me and God where I couldn't figure out where he was in those moments where the actual loss of death happened. Not all the deaths for sure, but a lot of them. So I can just launch in and like tell the story of like those 10. So the very first one was my grandma, which lands differently, right? When she's in her 90s, she's lived a really amazing life. But we were really close. And I kept debating what day to get in the car because she was on hospice and we didn't know when, but it was close. I got to talk to her the day before. And then the next morning I was getting in the car. And right as I'm grabbing my suitcase, to get on the road. My mom texted, she's gone.
Mm.
And I was like, I just can't believe I missed it. But it was just her and my mom. And it was similar to how my grandpa passed, where it ended up being everybody had come and said goodbye in their own way. And it was just mom and grandma with him in the room. And so I almost feel like she chose. And even that next day, mom was like, maybe we can do something more. I want to see if the doctors will intervene and like end hospice and try treatment. And so it was just this complicated thing. And grandma just peacefully slipped away. That was hard, but at the same time, there was a lot of peace and a lot of beauty in just how we got to celebrate her. And then I, probably 3 weeks later, was on the road for something with work. I'm a journalist, and I was starting a new position at my newspaper where I was going to become the children's reporter. And that was the first day that I was going to officially switch it all the way over from previously covering breaking news, which is a lot of crime and catastrophe. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited for something new, where I don't have to maybe focus so much on the heavy stuff all the time. Not that like covering children is always honky-dory, but I was running an errand, getting ready to hand off some documents from my old teammates to go over. And I started getting these frantic text messages, phone calls from different people around the community saying, we think there's been a school shooting. And I was on the interstate, and I was really close to where that neighborhood was. I didn't know which one. They just said there's so many ambulances, police cars, helicopters, SWAT vehicles, everything going to Green Hills, which is a pretty quiet neighborhood in Nashville. So I just like pointed my car toward that neighborhood until I got more info, was calling my editor, calling my coworkers, and sure enough, that turned out to be the Covenant school shooting here in Nashville. And 6 people died, including 3 9-year-olds and 3 adults. And then 7 if you count the shooter, who was later killed by police. So those 6 deaths really, I'd never covered something that magnitude. And I remember calling my mom while I'm stuck in traffic as the ambulances like whipped by me so fast that they shook my car. It's kind of like if you're on the interstate and you have to pull over, like that feeling. That's how fast it felt. And I'm just stuck there at 10 in the morning trying to figure out how to get to this school. And my mom called me about something else, and I picked up just like hysterical. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't know how to do this. I can't do this. I think children have been shot and killed. Like, what am I doing right now? And she just prayed for me in that moment. And I somehow had the strength to go through that day. But I mean, to this day, it's been 2 years since that happened. When people talk about it, it's still just visceral when they think about what transpired at that school and the absolute chaos that it dissolved our community into. There was tents for every possible news outlet lining the streets by the school within a day. And then for weeks after, there was a lot of chaos at our state capitol. I ended up on the steps of the Capitol a lot, covering demonstrations and rallies. And there was just so much grief and anger and chaos that followed that. And so, yeah, that's grandma and then 6 more. And then a few months later, got that unbelievable text message from Rayma, because it was one day before we were both getting on an airplane to DC to meet. I was going to go visit my old roommates. I was going to tag along for her journalism conference. We were just going to have like a girls' weekend in DC in between conferences and catching up with friends. And she said, I can't talk right now. Matthew just passed away. And I'm not going to get on the plane tomorrow, obviously. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, what can we do? What can I do right now? I think we talked the next morning at some point. And it just, the time of the text, I think it was 10:37 p.m. or something like that. Like, it just seared into my brain. I was like, that can't be true. That can't be real. That can't be happening. We knew he was sick. We knew there was some like good news, and then it just, so I remembered at like 1 or 2 in the morning that night, I was like, I should probably call the airline and see if they can do something, you know. I won't say which airline, not that they would ever listen to our podcast, right? But the gal was like, clearly believed me what was happening. And I said, is there any way you can like reroute my flight or give it a credit or something, short of just canceling. And she said, so your brother passed away, right? I said, She's like, so you need to go be with your sister. Yes. Okay, your family needs you. Okay. She was trying to make sure that I got it. I don't know if they can do it when it's just a good friend. So I was like, yes, my family needs me, which was true.
Yeah.
People mistake Rayma and I for sisters and twins occasionally.
Yeah.
That's in college a lot. I actually carried a conversation on pretending to be her because someone thought I was her, and I'm like, I know I don't want you to feel bad. Sure, mom's ankle's doing better. She's getting around good now. Anyway, so I think we gave like a couple days, and then I just flew out there, straight into it, and I'd already had the week off, but very different time was spent. And then in September, my dad texted me out of the blue, called me out of the blue, and said, your Uncle Marv just passed away. And I went, wait, he wasn't sick. I mean, he wasn't doing well. He had lots of health issues, but it was so unexpected. And then a month later, his other brother, my Uncle Dennis, went downhill really fast after an infection, and he passed away. So that was 10.
Wow.
And actually, my Uncle Dennis's funeral was the exact week that I was visiting Rayma, a couple months after Matthew died. And I had this like conflicted, like, I want to be there, but my aunt was like, please go be with your friend. And they actually live streamed the funeral, and it was gorgeous. My dad spoke, and I was just sitting on Rayma's couch. They were all the kids were at school, and she was at a friend's place where I met them afterward, and just cried my way through listening to my family like pour out these beautiful stories, talking about my uncle that had just passed, and sharing some stories about his younger brother who passed a few months before him, month and a half before him. So I came out of 2023 pretty angry, pretty sad, pretty confused. I think especially around the school shooting, I'd never experienced that level of trauma, loss, and then with Matthew dying, just that like fully like outside your body like reality, right? And I'm not the one who lost my husband or my dad, right? Like it was Rayma, but like I love Matthew for myself, and I'm deeply empathetic, and I can't bear to see people in pain. I have to do a lot for my job. I had to figure out what to do with that, like even where to be, Rayma joked about how we've never lived in the same city. I was like, I might move to Palace, like like I'm about to go to Colorado right now, like I'm gonna be like, we'll be like Full House, I'll be Uncle Jesse, and so I think what I felt like I lost and wasn't sure I'd get back was just that sense of peace and well-being, where I could figure out where God was even in hard moments. I just wrap my head around, especially the school shooting and especially Matthew dying, and seeing like the depth of the pain. And it was hard with the family members dying, a little different when they're older, but also seeing my dad go through the loss of a mother-in-law and 2 brothers, and then him always supporting me and my mom, and just it was a lot. It was a lot to carry. Christmas was different that year, right? And just any holiday. So I think I came out of that year just asking God, like, where were you in those really deep moments of loss? I could kind of see him with the elders in my family, but not with something like the school shooting, not with something like Matthew dying. And that scared me real bad. Like, I don't think I've ever had to say that feels like a black hole. I don't see how you could possibly have been there, God, and still be yourself, still be good, still be God. But I know that you've answered that question for a lot of people that still love and follow you through history. So I had to sit with that for a while. And he answered me. He did. And it's sort of a Job moment for me, where his answer for me was enough. And it was simple in some ways, where he said, I was specifically with the school, said, I knew I'd cry, but it's hard. But I was there carrying my kids home. I picked them up and I carried them. And I knew that was true. But just seeing like a picture of him being present and like wrapping his arms around people that are the victims of horrible brokenness, you know?
Yeah.
And then I told Rayma that story, and then she had something similar to like, she asked God where he was in that emergency room. I might let you share that part, Rayma, but what you said to me was like, not long after I heard God speak to me about the covenant school stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I of course was going through similar grief, just trying to wrap my head around anything and everything and feeling so numb and lost. And, you know, I'd had friends say, or people just say all sorts of different things to me, like, oh, God didn't mean for that to happen. I'm kind of like, well, what do I do with that? And then, you know, the whole range of theology. And I finally just was like, I'm a big believer in asking the Lord for word pictures. And so to me, and he does that to me a lot. Like he'll paint this scene for me in my mind as I'm praying. And it doesn't happen all the time, but there's been some few distinct times. And one of them was around Matthew. And I just was like quieted myself and asked the Lord that. And, you know, he showed me this picture where I was like at the park where Matt passed away, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw Jesus holding him up, and Jesus smiled at me, but like it was a very sad smile, you know, but it was kind of this like, I've got him, you know, I'm taking him home. And for a long time, I still was kind of like, well, where were you for me? Because here I am watching all of this. And he showed me like that he was standing right there with me too. And also just crying with me, overwhelmed, just this sadness. And isn't that such a weird thing to think about, right? That as lives are ending and things are playing out and hard things are happening in this world, not all the time does God rescue us out of those things, but he's there with us.
Yeah.
Even in those horrible, horrible times, those moments. And often, you know, we don't see him until later in that. And it still doesn't make it easier, really. But it does bring you more peace and comfort. Like you don't understand things yet, but just to know that he's there even then, you weren't left alone, right? Is huge. I don't remember what else I said. Did I say something else around it?
It was something like that, where he was holding Matthew and looking at you. Like, to know that that was so similar to what you saw and what I heard God tell me. And like, I won't pretend that the answer he gave me would be remotely enough for, you know, the parent of a child that died or a loved one that died, right? It was just enough for me to like just have a baseline. And there's some things that probably will never be explainable. I was just talking to a coworker how it's like you never really get an answer that satisfies you on why or how this happened. And even loved ones that passed away that were maybe more at a natural stage of life to, you know, like get sick or pass away. But it was a reminder that like by design, human beings are not supposed to experience death. And you could blanket statement be like, oh yeah, we live in a fallen world. Yeah, that's true. But what do I do right now? I'm still living in it, you know? How can I keep my faith intact and my theology? And I think it's okay that these things like blow everything up. They have to. And I think maybe the challenge for me was not clinging too much to what I thought I understood. And it's not like I've gone through something difficult before, but this magnitude. I think the part of my story I'm still working through is that, sadly enough, Nashville went through another school shooting this year. And this time a 16-year-old girl died, and then the shooter took his own life. And both of those deaths are so complicated and affecting, right? And it's just like, I had to come to terms, like, I actually felt like I navigated the situation a little better than previous one because I had this very terrible but helpful grid, you know, like it was really a strange mix of the trauma and the grief in me, you know, anxiety, and then like, I guess I kind of know what to expect for myself. Not that anything here. And that's the one I'm still in the middle of. Like, what does that mean for me and for our community? And I just finished a really long project where I sat and talked with lots and lots and lots of kids, parents, families, advocates, teachers about how they're doing. We're all still in the middle of it. I think that the reason it doesn't feel like I've come by any means to the other side of that, or honestly like Covenant or Matthew dying, is just that it's a community experience, and maybe it's something we just carry together and never like resolves, right? Well, this side of heaven it doesn't. But, yeah, that's where I'm at. But I think what I got back is just that connection and that peace with God that deepened my relationship with Him. But I still have those questions that swirl sometimes, and that pain and that grief. But I just feel a lot of comfort in it, and just the ability to like sit and learn and be able to express where I'm at and say, cool, I'm kind of a mess most times, but I'm really thankful. And it's just proven over and over again how close He is, like how impossibly close He is, and how He can be with us, like Raymo was saying, in those horrible, gut-wrenching, inexplicable, traumatic moments, and still be God and still be good and still be enough for us.
Yeah. And just the fact that He doesn't shy away from our questions either. When we're walking through those hard times, He welcomes them. Actually, He wants to have those conversations with us. And actually pulls us closer through our questioning.
Yeah, it's like probably in my 20s, I felt like I had my first big, I don't know if you can hear the leaf blower in the background. Maybe.
Hey, that's okay. These are real stories by real people with real leaf blowers. We're going to add that headline.
Raining. Anyway. It's nice. They're cleaning things up. It's a good thing. It's just always when I'm on a call. Wow, that's loud. What was it? Well, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. I did want to share, I just looked it up, this quote by Charles Spurgeon that says, "Heaven will be all the brighter because of the darkness through which we have passed on the way to it." And I think that shines through these experiences that you walked through, right? Any of these dark, traumatic, unexplainable things that we walk through, we see on the news, we hear about in one way or another. It's like, yeah, like we weren't made for this. But there is a place where we're headed where it's going to be so bright and beautiful, and all of this will pass away.
Yeah.
And that's our hope.
Yeah. This is something that Rayma has told me, and that I think I heard her share on a previous episode, was like, it's really hard to sing some of the worship songs at church, even now.
Yeah.
Like, especially ones that are like, "Death, where is your sting?" And I'm like, oh, I feel it.
Yeah.
Some broken, And then for me, like, the song "It Is Well With My Soul" is like a really deeply sad song. Beautiful. But we sang it at the graveside service of a friend that died at 28. Rayma knew her too, a little bit. And that was, I think, the first time someone my age had died in a car accident like that. It was like friends through college and post-college, and I just remember our friend Calbert singing that at her graveside. He has the most beautiful voice. Well, we all just wept our guts out. And every time I hear that song, it feels so specific. Like God is like, you need to hear it. Like you can sing it. You don't have to mean it right now, but it's important that it's there. And yeah, I think that theology exploding, like, what is God in this moment, And then coming back to that place where I could say, "It is well with my soul. This isn't okay. This is broken, but it's well with my soul." Like, I'm learning what that means in real time.
Yeah.
No, that's so good. And maybe that's where the healing from grief starts to come is when you start to realize more and more my wellness doesn't have to be defined by the resolution.
Mm.
Yeah, because we probably won't ever really get that until heaven.
Yeah,
Eternity.
absolutely.
No,
No,
go ahead, Joy.
no, I was just going to share my second pregnancy loss that we had a graveside service that was like a communal for families that had lost babies at any gestation. And there was a Catholic priest that was performing the ceremony, and which we're not Catholic, but this priest, he did a pretty good job. And one thing that he had us all repeat was Psalm 23, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." And I couldn't say those words because I was like, I actually do want. I want my baby to be alive in my belly right now.
Yeah.
And it took me so long to come to peace with Psalm 23 in general, because I was like, actually, I do want something different. But again, the Lord didn't shy away from me in that. You know, he allowed me to come to terms with it and wrestle with him. And yeah.
I think the train of thought I had earlier before the leaf blower came back to me.
Yes.
Probably sometime in my 20s when I really started grappling with loss and grief, like understanding my own emotions a little better. I was like, God, I'm scared to be angry at you.
Mm.
I remember him just showing me, like, I can take your punches. I can take your anger and every emotion. Like, I made you. I can take it. And it's not an excuse to be, bitter or unkind or any of that, but like getting it out and even just learning like what suppressed anger and emotions can do to your body, let alone your mental health, is something I had to learn the hard way. And I think especially through 2023 and some of the times after, like I felt grief in my body in a way that I never had, and trauma for that matter, and I've gone through some really incredible counseling and just a journey with the Lord and with loved ones that sometimes all you can do is just show up, or ask someone to show up for you.
Mm-hmm.
And like being as honest as I can with God. And I still feel like I'm in the middle of all of that. I think all of us would be, right?
Yeah.
In our own journeys. But just knowing like, yeah, he's big enough. And he's walked believers through even worse, Not that we like have to compare pain to pain, but he's pretty powerful. And I think I've just been thankful that I can at least get that piece of my like understanding and relationship in my heart back online. Even when things are really hard.
When I was thinking about how the last month, you and I, Rachel, have had a few conversations around futility and obscurity, like what I mentioned before. I think the three of us should come back and do a whole podcast on that. But one of the types of resolution, or I don't know, you can call that a partial resolution, you've been experiencing lately is realizing that even though this role you're in as a journalist, being put on these stories as you've been put on them, is to really listen to people and give them some of their voice back. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that experience you're having?
Yeah, I was literally talking to my colleague about that this morning, and she was like, "Man, this is good. We don't get to talk about this a lot." And I was like, "Yeah, we should do that more." So one of my coworkers said it really well. She actually, like, after the school shooting, she was a Pulitzer finalist for one of the photos she took. And anytime I tell people, they're like, "Oh, what photo?" I'm like, "It's the one of the little girl on the school bus crying." People go, "Oh, I know that picture." Even people that are not from here, everybody knows immediately what it is. It's heart-wrenching because she's got her hand pressed against the window and she's, of course, distraught and traumatized. And so she's an empath beyond anyone I've ever met, and she has witnessed and experienced some pretty intense things. And she said, a lot of this is about bearing witness. Bearing witness to history, to tragedy, to all of it. Said, but it's sacred. She understands that it's sacred. And I said, yeah, I've very often felt that way when I'm sitting with people, either in the moment of something terrible happening or afterward, when they're like, by some miracle, like willing to share their story with me. Like, I never take that lightly. And frequently say, like, you don't have to answer any of my questions if you change your mind in the middle of this and you say, never mind, like, just giving that space. But just saying, like, I want to hear this and I want to write about this because I want other people to understand what you want them to hear in this moment. And I think there's been a few people that said, I just feel powerless, I feel voiceless, I feel silenced, I feel I don't have any way to change this or be heard. And so I'm like, well, a tiny little newspaper, it's not that tiny, but it, like, maybe we can just help people understand that. That's one of the questions I almost always ask, even at the end of an interview, is like, what else do you want our audience to understand? You could help them see one or two things about this, your experience or this situation. Like, what do you want them to understand? What do you wish they understood more? And I won't be like, oh, I'm here to save the day and I'm giving you your voice. But it has been like a way that I could reconcile, like, I'm showing up, asking you to talk about this, asking you to share about this, asking you to trust me. Who am I? I'm just, and I think too, like, saying, like, we're all part of a community, like, we're reporting on the local level, and that's so important that we stay invested in that way and just say, like, hey, I'm with you in this. It's okay to cry with people too. Like, I think old school journalism be like, no, you got to go drink a 12-pack of beer and smoke some cigarettes to get over it, right? And I'm like, I've never been that way, thankfully, but no, I think we're getting better, at least with my colleagues, like, at being there for each other too, and just remembering, like, why we're doing what we're doing. And for some people, they're really passionate about holding powerful people accountable, or about just really great storytelling. But I think all of us say, like, we really care about our community, and we really care about shedding light on stories and situations and people's voices. So yeah, that moment of, like, realizing, okay, I can be one small drop in the bucket in this person's life, hopefully that leaves them better for it, is one way that I've been able to just keep moving forward. I may not do journalism forever, who knows. Grappled with that lately, but it's, for what it's worth right now, feels like where I'm supposed to be, and I'm really grateful for that.
Wow.
Do you have any other questions?
All right, I think I have one last question for you then. So if you could go back now to Rachel in January of 2023, what would you tell her?
Sounds so trite, but, like, it's going to be okay. Not in a way you can understand or actually make okay yourself. It's going to be and that you will get that joy back. You will be able to experience it without feeling guilty. All the people you're grieving for and over will find their way to you. And I can't say for sure, like, that all their stories are okay, right? But I would tell myself, like, it's okay to feel all of it. But I would also have given myself advice on it, how to take care of myself better. But I definitely crash landed out of that year. I spent the last year feeling like that restoration starting to come.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay, but not in a way that you could ever bring it about.
Yeah.
Well, and coming out of a season like that too, I mean, it's crazy. Like, I know you went through some health stuff. I went through some health stuff after Matt passed away. Like, the stress just
Yes, I did.
is relentless, and it takes a toll on us because we have to be so strong. And but after a while, it's like we weren't made to do that in our own strength. And even with God helping to carry us afterwards, we still have to walk through that healing with him, right?
Yeah.
And give our bodies the grace and the time to recover, and don't even put a timeline on that, right? That's the hard part of our American society is like, get back up. You got this. Like,
Yep.
keep marching forward. You got to move at breakneck speed, and our bodies often give us that hard stop.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think too, like, another thing I would have told myself is like, don't be afraid to stay soft. There are times where your body and your emotions and your soul will like do what they need to survive. Don't be afraid to stay soft. And maybe on the other side, don't be afraid to be numb, you know?
Yeah.
And, that's always my goal in life, is just to like keep my heart soft, even though it hurts real bad sometimes. It
does.
I don't want to go the other way. There's a difference between strength and like health, you know, and still being who you are and being soft-hearted. So, yeah, that's what I tell myself.
Ah, that was so good.
So good. That's my favorite question we ask, because it allows us time to like say, oh yeah, this is what I would have wanted to hear, because there's somebody listening that's on the brink of going through an experience like this, or there's walking through it right now, and they need to hear those words. You're going to be okay. Not by your own striving, not by your own doing, but you're going to be okay.
You'll always need community and other people, whether they're super close to you or just a larger group, just knowing like you've got someone in your life, or that you can find someone, you know. And I realize some people walk through this in a far lonelier manner than others, and I hate that. But maybe there's a way people can try to connect with at least one other person that can hear them and listen.
Yeah, one more little quick thought on that. It reminds me of in the Beatitudes. I don't remember all of them in a row, like blessed are those, but one of them is Jesus says, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. And when you look at that line, we're comforted. That's one of the names of the Holy Spirit. Right. And so that's one of his direct jobs, is when we are soft-hearted towards him, when we are coming to him with this mourning, no matter what that looks like soft-hearted can still be angry. I'd say soft-hearted more just means vulnerable and open to help.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I will help you. Like Jesus promises that the Holy Spirit will comfort us. And if we refuse to grieve, we are refusing that comfort of the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's always a stark reminder for me, like when I don't want to deal with grief or when I just want to shut down, it's like, no, girlfriend, you are doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah. Yep. And like I think both of you have said in many episodes, it's not linear, and that's okay. Sometimes you're moving through it even when it's hard, and you're doing it like well. There's no measuring stick either, right? Like everyone's different, and grief is not linear. And I think years ago too, probably when our friend died in that car accident, I realized like grief is a gift in a lot of ways, that it gives you a vehicle to process something unfathomable and something we're not designed for. And I kind of hate that thought, grief is a gift, because I don't want grief to exist, but having some sort of understanding of what it is and what you do with it and how it applies to you very personally and specifically, like, it's a powerful thing to start that journey.
So well said. That was great. Thank you for sharing with us today, Rachel.
Yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking, but I'm just talking to my friends, you know, on a podcast that people might hear.
How'd it go after just talking to your friends? Did it work out?
Like,
we weren't too intimidating.
No, and someone listening to this on the other end of the podcast production side, maybe it'll bring some revelation or comfort, or maybe my bobcat.
We've been getting those notes from people, actually. We really have. It's been cool.
Yeah, just come listen and cry with us. It'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't know who needs to hear what. You know, so as we release these episodes, we don't know who's walking through what, who's actually going to tune in and listen.
Yeah.
But even if it's just that one person who hears us having this conversation and says, oh, wow, okay, I'm not alone.
Mhm.
That's our hope.
Yep.
So we'll keep going past episode 10.
Yes.
That's right.
Looking forward to it. And more.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Can I close us in prayer today? Cool.
That'd be great.
Lord Jesus, we thank you so much for this time. I thank you for Rachel, for her story, for the light that she's shining in the darkness through your strength. And I just pray that you'll continue to walk with her through that as she goes into these dark situations, that you will just bless her, strengthen her, encourage her, and ultimately comfort her and those who she interacts with. Lord Jesus, I thank you for anyone who's listening today. I pray that you bless these listeners, that you just encourage their souls. Thank you for your comfort. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Awesome. Well, such a treat to see both of you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess talk to y'all soon.
Yeah, I guess I'll close it by saying good luck with the bobcat. May there be no more goslings destroyed.
No more goose rides. Yes. Or if there are, I don't want to see it. That's
right.
That's the bar.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Because the bobcat, he's totally happy. Like, he
Yeah, I
found
was
his
like, hey,
gold mine.
not hungry. I think it's a girl. I keep assuming it's a girl bobcat for some reason.
Sure.
I'm hungry now. So, yeah, good for her.
Yeah, great protein source, those goslings. Great protein source.
So normal and so terrible. Anyway, yeah. So she leaves my dog alone. I'm cool.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
There's some positive perspective.
We've been all right.
Very good.
Well, thanks, y'all.
Thank you. You ladies have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to growing our community together. We want to continue telling the stories of where the veil between heaven and earth is so thin and we can see God at work in our lives. To help us grow this community, please do share this podcast. We're working on being on lots of platforms, but whatever platform you found us on, please give us good reviews, leave comments. You can even just add stars, give us a 5 out of 5, shameless plug. Also, if you want to contact us directly, you can find us on Instagram at restoremysong, or also send us an email at restoremysong@gmail.com. All right, we'll see you soon.